Tom Tracy has been a guest on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast before. And when he was on before, we talked about how he and his husband created the family that they have and the series of books that he wrote that had a main character whose parents happened to be incidentally gay. Those are Tom's words. This time he's back and he has created a beautiful masterpiece called My Family, My Voice, and it is a workbook for parents to work through with their children when the parents happen to be incidentally gay, and helping to give our children the voice that they need, the information that they need, the space to ask questions as they face the questions that come to them from their peers. It is remarkable. You do not want to miss a moment. Dive right in with me. Welcome to the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. Welcome, everyone. I am so excited today. It's the 150th episode of the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, and I am lucky enough to have a friend come back to chat with me again on the podcast. If you've been listening for a long time, you heard Tom's story before, and that was all about family creation. Tom's created something different, something special, and something unique in queer spaces. So I needed to have him come back to talk about this new creation. It's beyond Scoochie and Skittles now. Tom, please tell everybody who you are, about the members of your family, and about all of your beautiful creations, especially this latest one.
Of course. Well, Sam, thank you for having me back. It's so great to be here, especially on the 150th episode. Very special.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah. For those that haven't listened to that prior episode, gosh, what was it? Do you even remember what episode number it
I
was?
don't, but it's
I
been a
don't
few
either.
years.
We should
Like,
look that up.
we
Yeah,
should.
yeah. Maybe it's a trivia for you, the listeners. Find the
Okay.
first one to say what was the prior episode number.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm Tom Tracy, and I'm a children's book author. But first and foremost, I'm a husband, and I'm a dad to two beautiful adopted girls. And I started writing children's books because I was inspired by my girls. And they are a different race than my husband and I. And as we were looking at the books on our daughter's bookshelves, we started to see that the majority of books that we were reading had families that did not look like theirs, and we had to work really hard to find books that represented families like theirs. And so I decided that I wanted to be part of the solution and contribute to the catalog, if you will, of books that represented LGBT plus families, and started to write books that kind of were inspired by my families and had my family, characters that had families like mine reflected on the pages. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years since we last talked, was just churning out some more and more books, and bringing us to today, to the most recent
I
release,
love it.
which I guess you want me to talk about.
I do want you to talk about that, but I want to just highlight one thing for people who are listening. Most of the books that we see these days that are on the shelves that have queer representation in them are about the queer representation. And that
Hmm.
was really important for you to not make the story.
Yeah,
And so before we get to your new baby, and we are, because I'm so excited for people to learn about that, I want, if you don't mind, for you to just take a
yeah.
moment and talk about why the focus of your series of books, the Scoochie and Skittles books, is not these children have gay dads.
Yep.
That's just like, they're wearing brown pants and they've got polka dots on their shirt and they happen to have two dads. It's just a background piece to the story. Can we
Yeah.
talk about that for just a moment? Because it is so important.
hmm hmm Yeah. So the way I approached it, and thank you, Sam. The way that I approached my books was what I call the characters in my book are what I call incidentally gay, right?
Fair.
Because what I wanted to reflect were families that people could all people could relate to, right? These are just everyday families. They happen to be two moms, they happen to be two dads, they happen to be, of the queer community. But the focus was on the family experience. And what was important for me was to really communicate the underlying message, which was this or these queer families have family experiences just like yours, Mr. and Miss Reader, right? Our experiences, while our families may look different, our experiences are very similar to yours. And we are that is the common thread that can connect us. And while we may also have different experiences, there is a common ground where we can meet and where we can connect. And that's the message that I really was hoping would come through, which is why, there is a place and there is value in the books that kind of are out and proud and are, this is a book about, and gay, and this is a book that defines, the different labels, etc. And I value those books. I just approached it this way, I think partly because my background is that I'm a clinical social worker. And, I saw so many families in general, queer, straight, black, white, Hispanic, right? Just so many families that felt that their voices weren't heard.
Right.
They felt marginalized. And so, I took that idea as a way to, unify those fragmented voices through storytelling. And so that was my approach to my stories.
I love that. And it is so important. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sitting here as I'm telling you this. I guess I haven't talked about this in a while, and so it's reminding me if I can tell this story.
Hmm.
So I was reading one of my stories in a classroom one day. And so the story is about two dads, or not about two dads, but the story has two dads. And so we get done the story. And so we're talking about, the story, or I'm talking about the story with the students. And I said, what did you notice about this family? And so one of the kids says that they saw that the family had two dads. And I said, what do you think about that? And I had a kid raise his hand and he said, I have two dads too. Well, my heart just like warmed and melted. And I was like, oh, this kid just felt safe enough to to say to the class that he had two gay dads. And I just felt this moment of like, oh, I did it. I created this space. And that was my own bias coming through because he
Sure.
did not have two gay dads. Because what he then told, I said, "Oh, tell me about your two dads." And he was like, "Well, I have my dad and I have my stepdad." And I was like, "Look at this.
Hmm.
This kid just taught me that my books were successful. Like he found a way to connect with the characters in this book.
Yes.
And while there were two gay dads in this book, he connected on the level that, hey, I have two dads as well.
Yeah.
And it's got nothing to do with, sexual orientation, but like I can connect on the experience of having two dads because I have a biological dad and I have a stepdad. And that was so profound to me
Yeah.
because in that moment, I realized that my own bias, right,
Sure.
as a gay man, I was like, "Whoops, not
Listen,
everybody's gay."
no,
Um,
Well, are they though? Maybe just a little bit.
Um, but I also realized that like, hey, what I set out to accomplish actually is working.
Yes.
Like kids are finding ways to connect with the characters. And when we give them, we have to give them credit that they're able to do that, right? And
Yes.
if we don't imply or apply our biases to them and we just give them the space, they will be able to connect
Yeah.
in a judgment-free way. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. That's amazing. Because you're right, it isn't something that I necessarily would have thought of, but it absolutely is relatable.
Yeah, yeah,
My stepdaughter has three moms.
right,
Right.
right.
And she talks about that very freely. And then her friends all say, or they did more when she was in elementary school. I want three moms.
Right.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, right. Do you really want three moms?
That's right. Wait till we start telling you to eat your vegetables.
Right.
You
Yeah.
have taken this opportunity that you have created for yourself in filling a void that was existed
Hmm.
in the book space and
Yep.
created this series of books that children, as you've just said, of any background can relate
Hmm.
to.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then you sat with things for a little while and you realized, oh, here's another void in the world.
Yep.
And so you sat down, pen to paper, or however you do it. I'm
Yep.
of an age where it would be pen to paper, but it could be any way. And started penning something else. Can we start? Just tell me what you've created and what was the impetus behind it? How did this blossom in your brain?
Yeah. Well, okay. So what we'll start with your first question was what did I create?
Yes.
So I have created a workbook. So a hands-on, tangible kind of flip through the pages, activities that kids and families can do together. And it is a workbook for kids with LGBTQ plus parents or family members. And the workbook is it guides children through these series of activities. There's a cute little penguin, a gender neutral penguin that has been in the penguin's story is they have been adopted by some flamingos. So a different species, if you will, so different
Yeah.
from the penguin. And so the penguin talks about how their family is different. And there are two versions of the workbook. One version has two female flamingos, and one version has two male flamingos as parents. But in any event, the flamingo guides the kids as a way to introduce their family, so that kids can feel comfortable, kind of like it affirms the child's family
Hmm.
that are looking through it. And again, it's a guided workbook that helps kids affirm their experience, and also begin to explore the strategies that they may need to develop to address some of the social complexities that they may encounter in having LGBTQ parents, right? And so
Hmm.
if we look through the level of number of resources, and I might be jumping ahead a little bit to your other question, but if we look through the number of resources, there are a ton of resources for what if my child is gay, right? What if
Yes.
my child comes out as LGBTQ? But what if my child has LGBT parents and all of a sudden we're at a dearth for resources?
Right.
And so so anyway, so that's what this workbook is intended to do, is to help to build the skills that the child will need to deal with some of those social complexities, to develop a sense of pride in their family, to
Hmm.
open up the conversations at home, or to create space to have those conversations at home,
Yep.
and to develop a sense of familial pride while also having a sense of individual identity, right? Because my
Yes.
parents are gay doesn't mean that I'm gay,
Right.
right? So, so understanding that my family's identity is not necessarily my individual identity, but I am part of my family's identity,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And so that's what I've created. The workbook itself has, a parent only section as well, for or caregiver. So, not all adults caring for children are necessarily parents.
Yep. True.
So we could have caregivers of any sort. Could be, older adults. It could be foster. It could be any number of caregivers. So there is a section there, and there's a resource page, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll talk more about that. But I want to get to why, right? And
Hmm.
I've hinted at the kind of the academic, if you will, which was or is that there, if you do any kind of Google search or Amazon search and you search for, workbook or resources for kids with LGBT parents, you get really nothing. You get the whole, what if my kid comes out as
Yes.
LGBT, right? There's really nothing that matches that phrase. So if you are a parent who wants to know how can I help my kid navigate this space effectively,
Hmm.
you will get a search result that gives you nothing in return.
Yep.
And so you're left as a parent to navigate the space alone. And as a parent, it's also, often a parent's first time doing it as well,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yes. Yeah.
so we're flying by the seat of our pants.
Right.
So, what inspired this though wasn't necessarily the dearth of resources. That was probably secondary.
Okay.
What came first for me was the only reason I went searching was because of what happened at home for
Mhm.
me. So I've said before that my children expire. No, they don't expire. Not for a long time, I hope.
Nope. No, long after you've gone, right?
um, my children inspire my writing, and the same is true here. So my oldest daughter, who's now 9, one day came home from school, and we have this wonderful relationship with her where, and I in particular have this great relationship with her where she just tells me everything.
Right.
Everything. Like certainly we've had the menstrual cycle conversation already. We've had the birds and the bees conversation already.
Yeah.
Like we just have this really open relationship. And so
Wonderful.
she came home and told me about, you know, this bad word that she had learned at school.
Hmm.
And so we talk about it because I believe in,
Yeah.
here's the bad word, here's what that bad word means, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
I want you to know what the real word or what the word really does mean. So I'm like, okay, well, what is the bad word? Well, you know where I'm going with
I
this.
do. Yep.
The bad word was gay.
Yeah.
And I was taken back
Yeah.
because for all the proactive parenting that I had done, and the menstrual cycle conversation and the sex conversation and all the conversations that I had had with her, I had not had the gay word conversation with
Yes.
her.
Yes.
And I was mortified, not that she had heard that at school, but that I had failed to prep her
Yep.
for what she was going to experience at
Mm.
school.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
took it for granted that she was living in a household with two dads, two gay dads who are out and proud. And I just took it for granted that by osmosis, that she would understand that
Yes.
and that deliberate conversation would have helped her be ready. because what happened was this.
Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back. I don't know about you, but I love being able to support queer business wherever possible. Here are 10 of the businesses I've connected with over the last couple of years. The first is Conscious Leadership Academy, and you can find them at lauriesolpizio.com, littlebondco.com, birthmarksupport.com, everydonation.com, fertilitylawcanada.com, understorycafe.com, heygaddies.com, gwkacademy.org, informedfertility.ca, and knifeyspoonie.com. To learn more and visit these websites, check out the bottom of the show notes over all of the episodes in the coming weeks.
When she told me it was a bad word, I did what I always do with bad words, was try to redefine it for her. And she resisted it. And I said, Daddy and I are gay. And she looked at me and she said, no, no, you're not. You can't be. You can't be, because that's a bad word. And my dad's can't be bad. No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And so in essence, what I had to do was unwind this negativity around her parents' identity,
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't prep her.
Yeah.
And so I realized in that moment that, after I got done beating myself up,
As we do. As we do.
yeah, right. It was that if this was my experience, I wonder if other gay parents, right? People can't see you raising your hand,
I'm raising
right?
my
But
hand. Yeah,
yeah.
that was essentially us. My stepdaughter was in grade 4, had been quiet for a few days, and then turn out the lights at night and it's bedtime, and that's when the big questions come, when they've got some
Hmm.
privacy and security of the
Hmm.
darkness of night. And she said to my wife, I need to tell you something. I've had some kids at school making fun of me and
Mm.
telling me that I've got so many moms, and I that they were calling you a lesbian, and
Oh.
the way that she said it, and we thought,
Hmm.
my wife said, I am a lesbian.
Right,
But
right.
mom, they said it was a bad thing, or they made it sound like it was a bad thing, and my wife said, but does it feel like it's a bad thing? Like, we love you, you love us,
Yeah.
you see us love each other, we treat each other with kindness and respect, and you want to know, we made a trip into the school the next day because we're already on the parent-child council in Canada. We're
Yeah.
parent-child council, PTA, I guess, maybe where you are, but still,
Yeah.
we knew that the teachers and the school, and we went in and like, what's happening here? But you're right, it's because we didn't take the time to say, because we live out and proud. She knows
Yes.
she's got two moms. She
Right.
knows that that's the
Right.
dynamics of her family. That's the way it goes. It's all good. And at the same time, we didn't
Hmm.
specifically say it's okay for us to be lesbians. And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're going to be gay, because, of course, that was the next thing that was coming out of people's mouths. If
Yes,
your
that's
mom's a
right.
lesbian, you're going to be a lesbian. Really? Because my parents are straight. And hello.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So it's clearly not contagious or
Right.
genetic. Right.
Right.
Right. So yes. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and so it is a conversation that more parents end up having to have that they don't even realize.
And they have it after the fact most of
Yes.
the time. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So I'll fast forward, right? So my daughter didn't benefit from the workbook because the workbook then started to take shape.
Sure.
I will say to you now, like, so we've worked on this because now the conversations happen pretty openly. And she's in a much better place now. Yay. And
Yeah.
as your daughter is too.
Sure. Yes.
But she said to me, she's like, I've had a lot of crushes on boys. I was like, I know. They're not really working out. I was like, okay. She's like, I'm gonna try some girls. I was like, okay, go,
Yep.
go for it. She's like, and I know no one cares because because you and Daddy and no one in our family is going to care. So I don't care what other people think. I was like, good, good for you.
Excellent.
Good for
Excellent.
you. You try out everything you want until you figure out what's right. Go
Right?
ahead.
Right? Exactly.
You
Exactly.
see what fits. You see what fits. But in any event, so yeah, I appreciate you sharing that experience, Sam. And I actually was fortunate after I had my experience, I was invited to do a workshop for an organization, and I was doing a workshop for LGBTQ parents, and so I just kind of used this workshop space to kind of informally survey. And I'm like, so what's your biggest, and these were parents and hopeful parents, so it was a
Right.
mix.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did just this informal survey where the crowd, the workshop attendees could just shout out, right? Like, and I did, what's your biggest concern for your kids, and with having LGBT parents? Like, what do you worry about for your kids? And this was the number one thing, right? Was bullying, teasing,
Yeah.
how are they going to navigate this space, et cetera, et cetera. It was all about like,
Yep.
how do we help them? How do we protect them? How do we, prepare them, et cetera. So, um, and then subsequent to that, I was invited to another conference event where I was tabling, and I had a draft of this workbook, and it wasn't ready, but I had it, and I just, offered it for people to flip through. And I tell you, there were some people that were practically in tears and said, when is this ready?
Yeah.
Because I could use it tonight. Yeah, it just was like, the minute that you say you don't have to be alone and there's something here to support you,
Yeah.
people will do like you did, which is raise your hand and say, "Hey, I have a similar experience like that too." And if there's a resource, I'd like to at least understand what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it helps guide a conversation that, like you said, we assume through osmosis, they just know, our children just know these things.
totally.
And that we've somehow equipped them to be prepared for what they experience. And so they we realize that's not the case. They don't learn by
Mm-mm.
osmosis. Just like they don't learn to load the dishwasher by osmosis.
That's right.
We have to show them things and lead them so that they can understand. So I understand all of this. And that's the beautiful thing about your book. I mean, I have had the opportunity to be able to read the book, so I do know the contents of it,
Yeah.
but it helps formulate a thought process that we just assumed our children were going to know. And so I find that just so beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I'm really grateful for individuals like yourself. I did invite a lot of eyes to be on this workbook
Yeah.
before I released it to the public. So, in addition to you, there are a lot of other organizational leaders and people that I trust, as well as I had a couple dozen LGBT parents that I would consider right, a parent advisory group that also did a reading and provided feedback, either based on their own reactions or they actually applied it with their own kids and said, here's what happened when I did it with my kids, and here's what my kids said. And
Yeah.
I will tell you that 90% of the feedback that came in got integrated into the workbook because it was important for me to have those voices represented as well. So it was very much um, a collective voice effort
Yeah.
in creating this, but I didn't want to do it alone because while it was inspired by one person's experience, I didn't want one person's experience to I didn't want this to be myopic, right? I wanted
Sure.
this to be informed by, a multiple viewpoints to
Hmm.
make sure that it was broadly applicable.
Yeah. And that's,
So thank you for reviewing
oh, well, it really,
it.
truly, I was honored to have been asked. It does feel very broad in its approach to be able to be applied in a variety of different ways, depending on family dynamics and all
Hmm.
kinds of things. It felt very respectful. And the fact that you wanted to bring in the thoughts and feelings and incorporate the recommendations of other people's speaks a lot to the fact that this book was meant to be more than just a story
Hmm.
that that is essentially one family's story. I mean, your other
Right,
books, you don't necessarily need to take that feedback for a
right,
story, but this
right.
is a story that a family gets to write. And so
Hmm.
being given a variety of different ways to be able to bring their voice to their unique story is very clear in your creation
Thank you.
here. So
Thank you.
I think families will truly benefit from it. Parents will benefit from it. And you do it not just for parents who are together with their partner. You can have gay parents who have separated, who are
Hmm.
co-parenting in different
Yep.
households and things like that. So it's when I say it's broad, I mean it's broad. It's inclusive and broad and respectful of all kinds of family dynamics.
Yeah.
And you don't see that. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate having
Oh,
seen
thank
that.
you. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, it was very intentional. I got some early feedback that, not that we need to rehash it, but I wanted to make sure, I got some trans voices represented because I wanted to
Hmm.
make sure, I mean, that is not my experience. So I wanted to make sure
Sure.
that experience was being properly represented and
Hmm.
felt inclusive. Right. So there are just things that I don't have lived experience around. And so it was really, really important for me to not presume
Hmm.
that I would know. So I'm glad that resonated. I'm glad that came through. Thank
It did.
you.
It did very
Yeah.
much. So where do people go to find this book, this creation, this masterpiece? So how do they get their mitts on dozens of copies for themselves and everyone they know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So it is, let's talk about what it's called. We haven't even talked about
Oh,
what it's
oh,
called.
yes.
Oh
What is this
my gosh.
beautiful book called?
Yeah, so normally my books fall under the Tom Tracy books category or brand, if you will. So that's typically, you find all my stuff under tomtracybooks.com. There is a link on tomtracybooks.com that heads over to whateverworkbooks.com. So that is a sub brand under Tom Tracy books. So not to make this overly complicated, but whatever workbooks is kind of where I'm going to house other workbooks as well. And the goal is to produce other similar types of workbooks like this first set of workbooks that really attend to marginalized populations or tend to you know populations that are forgotten or not addressed through traditional resources for whatever reason. So, so you can find it over at whateverworkbooks.com. And the name of the workbooks or the workbook is My Family, My Voice. And then it's got this long like subtitle, which is A Kid's Guide to Confidence, Boundaries, and Family Pride.
Hmm.
But My Family, My Voice is the primary title by Tom Tracy. And you can go for the two dads version or the two moms version.
I love it.
You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on, all of the booksellers have it. I've checked. You can get a Walmart. And all you can get it on the online booksellers. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Walmart. Any place that sells books at this point, I think you can get it online or you can get it directly at whateverworkbooks.com. So you should be able to find it now pretty much anywhere online.
Excellent.
And if not, contact me. I'll know where to find it for you.
Absolutely. And And so we've got tomtracybooks.com. It's a great way for people to reach out to you, whatever workbooks.com, another great way to reach you. Social media, best places to find you.
Yeah, so Instagram is probably the best. And same way. I have two accounts. So at Tom Tracy Books for the kind of the stories, and that's where I'm kind of couching the storybooks. The illustrated storybooks are at Tom Tracy Books. So same handle for Instagram. And then at whatever underscore workbooks is the Instagram account for the workbooks. Yeah. That's the best. Facebook, I don't really play that much space in, but Instagram is probably the best.
Fair.
Yeah.
And one
Yeah.
of the things that I love is that, and I haven't noticed it so much on whatever workbooks social media just yet because
It's new.
it's brand new, but you often post where you are as well. So if people want to see you,
Yeah.
they want to meet you, they want to ask you questions because you are out and about a lot
A
and
lot.
meeting folks all the time and always doing the good work. You are sharing you don't promote just your own stuff and like leave things be. You share resources everywhere with all of your followers for not just your work, but the work of so many people that you respect and care about and admire and things like that. So really, that's a phenomenal place for people to learn just more about who you are as a person. You get a true sense of
Thank
who
you.
you are as a person by following you on social media. So that's just a fan, you know.
Are you fangirling right
I'm
now?
fangirling hard. What can I say?
That's right. I'm fanboying right now. That's
Oh,
harder to say, fanboying.
there you go.
Um,
There you go. I want to just take a moment and say thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, telling people more about the work that you do. It is invaluable, and there are so many people in our community who, like I said, have this lived experience. You know, I loved it when you were doing your storybooks, and that's not to say that that's not still happening, but I loved that the storybooks were stories of life where, as you said, they were incidentally gay parents in the book. Extremely valuable for families of all kinds to create. This other one is on an island of one, as you've created, as you've said. There's nothing else out there like this, but it is a story that is universal for queer parents when they talk about their children's lived experiences. So, giving them this workbook to work from is is a gift that I don't even think we can see how valuable this gift is yet because it's going to be huge.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would welcome it is relatively inexpensive and it's also available as an ebook. So it's actually really inexpensive if folks are budget conscious. I would welcome, I always welcome for anybody that buys my books or now the workbook, drop me a line. My email is published everywhere too. Drop me a line. I'd love to hear what people think, impact that it has. Send me a picture. I'll find a way to post it on my website. I love that. To me, that just brings
Yeah.
me so much joy to
Yes.
see people enjoying having seeing my work become part of their family and their lives in some way makes me feel part of their lives,
Yeah.
and that brings me joy too. So share it with me, please.
100%. I encourage
Yeah.
everybody to do it. All contact information for Tom will be in the show notes for today. So if you didn't have a pen handy when we were spewing off websites and Instagram handles, then please check the show notes. Thank you so much for being here, Tom. I love you. I have a big spot in my heart for you. I appreciate you so much.
Back at you, Sam. Thank
Thank you.
you.
I want to take a moment to acknowledge the stolen land I live and work on, because where we are matters. I live in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, and I carry colonial lineage. That's something I hold with both awareness and responsibility. The land stretching from Lake Ontario to the Niagara Escarpment and beyond has a history that runs so much deeper than the city I live in. It's Indigenous land, rich with story, relationship, and meaning, and my community benefits from that legacy every single day. This territory is held under the dish with one spoon wampum belt covenant, a powerful agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy, the Ojibwe, and allied nations to share and care for the resources of the Great Lakes region together, peacefully. I also want to specifically recognize that I'm on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. As a queer person, I find myself coming back to the land as a teacher, and one of the most profound things it teaches us is fluidity. The gender binary and heteropatriarchy didn't emerge from this land. They were brought here by colonizers, the same people who tore Indigenous children from their families, their homes, and everything they knew. Those children were then sorted into one of only two rigidly prescribed categories and forced to perform a version of gender that was never theirs to begin with. That violence was deliberate, and its echoes are still very much with us. But the land has never operated in binaries. It is diverse, layered, beautifully complex, and sometimes wonderfully unpredictable. It holds all of us, every path, every identity, every way of moving through the world. Every organism, every spirit has a purpose. That's something I try to carry with me as I move through my own life and growth. Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.